Hello, I'm Susan Craighead with the League of Women Voters of Naperville. Tonight, we will learn more about affordable, accessible, and supportive housing. Our presenters tonight will address typical community concerns and talk about who lives in this type of housing and why it benefits the community. The League of Women Voters has long endorsed recommendations predicated on the conviction that every person and family should have decent, safe, affordable housing. Speaking tonight are Clara and Roger Hughes of DuPage United, an inclusive, nonprofit, fiercely nonpartisan organization whose mix of member institutions have come together to improve the quality of life for individuals, families, and communities. Joining them is Lindsey Haines, Senior Vice President of Real Estate Development at Full Circle Communities, Inc., whose mission is to expand access to quality, affordable housing through preservation and development, thoughtful design, and the provision of significant and targeted supportive services to residents and surrounding communities. Clara Hughes is a retired human resources professional who has lived in the western suburbs of DuPage County for about 50 years. In her retirement, she's a leader with DuPage United, an organization of 28 faith-based and secular institutions who work together with community leaders to build a stronger community in DuPage County. Roger is a retired psychologist and 21-year resident of Glen Ellen. For the past 4 years, he's been an active member of DuPage United, focused on their affordable housing, mental health, and gun safety initiatives. Lindsey Haines is responsible for crafting and implementing their organization's development and growth strategies. Lindsey has overseen the development of almost 1,500 units of affordable and supportive housing in the Midwest. I believe we'll start with Clara and Roger. Oh, and please feel free to put your questions in the chat, and we'll have time for Q&A at the end.
Thank you, Susan. And welcome everyone who's attended tonight. Roger and I are both so pleased to have an opportunity to talk with you a little bit about some of the nuts and bolts of affordable housing. And we also have been involved for the last 2 years on bringing or working to bring affordable, accessible, and supportive housing to a property in Glen Ellen that's the site of some abandoned hotels. So if you have any question about that, we're happy to answer it after the presentation. But without further ado, I would like to get on with our presentation for tonight and go all the way up to the very beginning. And just excuse me while I start this. Okay, as Susan mentioned, we're going to be talking about affordable, accessible, and supportive housing. Some of the terms, we'll unpack those. We'll talk about who needs it, why it's important to the community, and what it looks like. First of all, some terms. What is affordable housing? It's affordable to low-income workers. Low-income households have to make tough choices about how they're going to spend their hard-earned income. So there is a guideline that the government sets that 30% of a low income, if an individual spends more than 30% of their income on a house, an apartment or house, they're considered cost burdened. And this is important because nationally and within DuPage County, 30% of households, and this is as of 2019, are cost burdened, which means the cost of their housing exceeds 30% of their income, and they are having to make really tough choices about whether they pay rent, whether they buy medications, food, transportation, and the like. Affordable housing is accessible to essential services. Services like schools, grocery stores, hospitals, libraries, and amenities like restaurants and parks. It is within the community, not put out in some vacant land outside of the community where they don't have access to anything. The new affordable housing provides on-site supportive services. And what do I mean by that? Supportive services are either an on-site or near-site case manager who helps residents navigate challenges. These services could range from simple questions, help finding community resources, to offering to the residents a variety of social enrichment and activity programs so that they can build their own community. I'm now going to turn it over to Roger, who is going to talk about why, excuse me, let me go back.
You're good. You're good.
There you go.
Okay, so now we know what affordable housing is. Why do we even need to talk about it? Why is it important? Well, basically, there's just not enough of it being built. On this graph, the blue bar shows what the housing need is at different income levels. Here defined as a percentage of area median income, which is in the Metro Chicago area is about $78,000. The red bar shows how much housing is being built to meet that need. As you can see, there's lots of need for housing for people who make less than the area median income. But no one's building housing for these low income people. What's being built? High-end housing for affluent people, those making more than 120% of the area median income. And we're seeing that occur in Glen Ellen with new expensive apartment developments being built right now. Now, there's nothing wrong with high-end housing, but it doesn't have to be an either-or situation. We can have high-end housing and affordable housing. But why is affordable housing important to a community? Why do we need it? This could be a whole presentation unto itself, but aside from it being the right thing to do, I'd like to make 4 points about the benefits of affordable housing. Number one, it provides housing stability. For families with children, studies show that housing stability improves their physical health, improves their mental health, and improves their academic performance. Stable, affordable housing helps children grow into productive members of our society. Affordable housing results in more disposable household income. If you're not spending every last dime on housing, you have money to sometimes go out to dinner, buy toys for the kids, take in a movie. Basically, you can support local businesses that need customers to survive. This is the trickle-up economy at work. Affordable housing also provides potential employees who might like to work closer to home. These are the workers that are vital to the success of local businesses. Again, another trickle-up benefit. Finally, when supportive housing is added to the mix, it provides a way for adults with developmental disabilities or seniors that need a little extra help to live independently, sometimes in the community that they grew up in. They can move out of mom and dad's basement. Now, this mom and dad's basement reference, by the way, also applies to recent college grads, if you have any of those.
Thanks, Roger. You know, I would really, really love it if we could take away the label of affordable housing and all of the stigma that comes along with it, and simply agree that we need to offer a broader range of housing options in our communities that enable people earning a variety of incomes to live comfortably in that community. But instead, we do need to talk about this because of what Roger said. Affordable housing just hasn't been built since the mid-'80s, to be honest with you. So what I have here is just a visual so we can all recognize the really extreme need for a range of housing. And these are broad occupations that are used to benchmark salaries. We took a look at wages for DuPage County. And there's two of these things I want to point out. Healthcare support and office administrative, according to a study commissioned by Hughes DuPage in 2019, those two were recognized as some of the fastest growing occupations in DuPage County. Sales also, retail, hospitality, also very fast growing, projected to be very fast growing in DuPage County. So those jobs are important in our community. What this chart shows you is the median wage from 2021 for these particular occupations. And then if we take the guideline of not expending more than 30% of your monthly income on rent, then these are the rents that these people in these jobs can afford. And this is at the median income. There's always an entry-level worker, and that's even lower. So if we look now at the affordability and the reality, we can see this picture is pretty serious here. We took a look on rent.com at average rents for Naperville as of very recently, and a 1-bedroom is going for $1,582, all the way up to a 3-bedroom at $2,600. And many of these jobs, like the personal care and services, that's your beauty shops and that kind of thing, your healthcare support, and your entry-level sales jobs and your hospitality industries, they can't afford to live in the community, and not just Naperville, but a lot of DuPage County. Another thing that I want to point out about Naperville, and again, this applies to other communities as well, but I want to try to make it as close to you as I can. I looked at wages for entry-level police officer, and that's about $74,000. Entry-level firefighters, $64,900, and then teachers around, not quite entry-level, but a little bit more experience, about $48,500. Those individuals would have to make almost $84,000 to afford a 2-bedroom apartment in Naperville. I know in Glen Ellen, we took a look at some entry-level police officers, and one was living in Glen Ellen and indicated that he was soon going to have to move away because he just simply couldn't afford it anymore. So these are important jobs to the community. You don't want them to be living too far away. I am now going to turn it back over to Roger, who's going to talk not only about affordability, but oh wait, you already did talk about availability. What we also want to talk about, in addition to affordability and availability, is concerns that the community has, because there are concerns. Affordable has a lot of baggage to it, and Roger is going to address that area.
Yeah, when a community considers affordable housing developments, residents are always going to have concerns. We've definitely seen that in Glen Ellen. We're still battling the good fight. Objections and concerns are often based on unfounded fears and stereotypes, sometimes just a lack of information, and some of which we hope to clear up today. We can't just dismiss concerns as NIMBYism, because they actually might have some legitimate basis. Now, the research shows, and when I talk about the research, I actually have a page of references that I would be happy to share with anyone on this call that talk about affordable housing and concerns and things like that. But the research shows that the key factors for success in affordable housing developments are not so much the residents, but development size, building quality and design, location, and property management. These are the important factors when assessing the validity of concerns. So what are some of the biggest concerns people have when they're looking at a new affordable housing development? The number one concern, does affordable housing increase crime? This is most frequently mentioned by people who are against affordable housing. There's numerous studies that confirm that housing developments do not increase local neighborhood crime. In fact, there's studies that in poorer neighborhoods, a brand new affordable housing development actually decreases crime, but we won't get into that. But in affluent neighborhoods, there's no increase in crime. Again, the key factors: lower density developments, usually between 40 and 100 units, that are integrated within the community, well constructed, and properly managed. There's no impact on crime. So unless Granny, your recent college grad, or the young mother with kids is already prone to criminal activity, affordable housing doesn't result in higher crime. Oh, but how about property values? Will my property values go down? Again, there's numerous studies that show that affordable housing does not decrease property values. In front of you is a 2006 Trulia study that shows no impact on property values after an affordable housing development is built, shown here by a vertical line. A more recent study in 2022 confirms the findings of this study. Again, the important factors are the quality of the buildings, how well they fit into the neighborhood, the development size, and how well managed they are. Well, how about our schools and our children? That's always a hot topic, and it certainly has been in Glen Ellen. Will children who live in an affordable housing development have a negative impact on the local schools? Will a new development put a strain on local resources, or will they lower test scores? Well, first, I think we need to keep in mind that renters with children is just a subset of those who would live in an affordable housing development. For example, the new 47-unit development at 1212 Larkin and Elgin, which Full Circle Communities developed, has about 23 school-age students, aged 5 to 18, so about 2 students per grade. The small number of children that a 40 to 60 unit development might add to a school system is not likely to put a strain on resources. Regarding test scores, the small number of additional students should not significantly impact test scores, which is based on hundreds of students. And even that assumes that these additional students would be below average. Also remember that the quality of a child's education is not just test scores. It's also learning to interact with a diverse population like the one they will find in the real world.
Thank you, Roger. With what we're working on in Glen Ellen, in addition to the impact of the number of students coming into the schools, there were concerns about whether an affordable housing development would pay property tax. There were really big concerns that affordable housing developments don't pay property tax. And in fact, they do. I'm going to turn it over to Lindsey, who will be addressing that among a lot of other things that she'll be talking about this evening. So I'm going to stop my share and turn it over to her.
Okay, can everyone see my screen? Does that work? All right, great. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for the kind introduction earlier. But again, my name is Lindsey Haines. I'm the Senior Vice President of Real Estate Development at Full Circle Communities. Full Circle is a nonprofit affordable housing developer. We develop, own, and manage all different types of affordable housing. Oops. We're based in Chicago and do a lot of work in the city, but also a lot of work in the surrounding suburbs. We also work in Iowa and Michigan. So we're kind of across the Midwest. We've been around since 1999, and I've been at Full Circle for just over 10 years. We develop all different types of affordable housing. We've done anything from a small 25-unit permanent supportive housing development for veterans in McHenry, Illinois. We've done large-scale rehab work of existing affordable housing, preserving it as affordable. We've done adaptive reuse of schools. We've completed new construction in the city of Chicago. So we are a really flexible organization, and part of our mission is to really be responsive to the needs of any given community in which we're working. So we don't have a cookie cutter model. Everything we do is really responsive to what we're hearing from the municipalities, the folks on the ground, the other nonprofit service organizations in the communities in which we work. So we take a really contextual approach to everything that we do. Part of what enables Full Circle to do lots of different development work in a really effective way is that we set aside 75% of our developer fee and cash flow, the economics that we earn on each one of our projects. And we partner with another local nonprofit to provide supportive services for our tenants. Roger and Clara did a great job giving you an overview of what that means. But at Full Circle, that means that each one of our developments, we're providing contextual services. Services are going to look really different at, really intensely permanent supportive housing building where services are really what's needed to keep folks housed. That's going to look really different from development that's serving families where we focus on youth programming and family supports. And again, looks really different at a senior property where health and wellness is a focus, aging in place, and social activities. So we're always looking from within the community to see who is already doing the type of programming and work that would really benefit our tenants on site. And we are able to partner with them to bring those resources into our buildings, but also to make sure our tenants are aware and connected so that they're able to access resources and things that are already happening in the community. All right, so I'm a firm believer that images are more powerful than me kind of rambling on about each one of our developments. So I've chosen a few select photos here of some of the work that we've done in Northern Illinois. So we've talked a little bit about 1212 Larkin. That is a development that Full Circle completed just a couple of years ago in Elgin. To talk a little bit about that one, it was quite an effort. So we developed 48 units. We kind of did everything on this site. We did the adaptive reuse of a historic orphanage, which was a historic landmark in Elgin. And then were charged by the city of Elgin to make the new construction that we built on the rest of the site really contextual and historically appropriate. So everything else that we built on the site is a combination of 4-unit apartment buildings and 2-unit townhome buildings that are meant to look like single-family homes. The development is kind of in the middle of a single-family home neighborhood. And so it was really important to make sure that we were matching the scale and context around us. We're partnered there with another nonprofit called AID, the Association for Individual Development. They're our on-site service provider. We also reserve 20% of the units in this development for folks with disabilities. And AID made many of those referrals. Many of those tenants were their existing clients that were looking for affordable and supportive housing within the communities that they already lived. Another important note on 1212 Larkin was the organizing effort that was involved to get the project off the ground. It looks really great. We've gotten a great amount of community acceptance, have won a few awards for the project, but it took you know, years of convincing, organizing, mobilizing with, you know, like-minded organizations and folks in the community to work with the city of Elgin. So they got the, you know, kind of comfort level that there was community support and infrastructure kind of backing up the effort. So lots of organizing work, lots of showing up to meetings, lots of small meetings, big meetings, lots of myth busting type of thing that Roger was mentioning. But in the end, through kind of the power of coalition, we're able to, you know, get the city council on our side. And now everyone, yeah, is quite pleased with the development, as are we. But we also build, you know, a lot of more traditional apartment buildings that also look and function really great. So 2 examples here. Pearl Street Commons, you wouldn't know it from the outside, but this is, you know, where Full Circle's doing some of its, you know, most difficult work at times. We have 25 units there right in downtown McHenry. And it's for veterans and persons with disabilities. Many of, you know, and many folks in this building were formerly homeless. So we are providing permanent supportive housing for folks where sometimes this is their first time living independently for a really long time, or are, you know, dealing with really chronic issues that make maintaining their housing really difficult, or finding housing really difficult. And we have a supportive service team on site. Actually, the same group, AID, that works with us in Elgin, works with us here. We also have another veterans partner, an organization called TLS in McHenry, that provides specific peer support for the veterans in the building. And the other development that you can see here is called Creekview. It's all the way up in tiny Richmond, Illinois, on the border of Illinois and Wisconsin. Richmond does not, you know, have a lot of affordable housing, let alone rental housing. And we built 25 units of senior housing just north of the downtown. So it's been a really, you know, important amenity in Richmond for folks that are looking to downsize and stay in the community, but, you know, need some walkability to downtown in a community where there isn't, honestly, a ton of walkability at all. There we're really focused on health and wellness and aging in place, and making sure that our tenants can stay independent and in their units for as long as they want to. And yeah, it's been very successful. We have residents that have been there, you know, over the whole 6 years since we completed this building, have been kind of in from the start. Kind of, you know, we've been adding things like grab bars. We have a lot of adaptable features in the units that can really accommodate folks as they age. And I wanted to give you, you know, a couple of other images of 1212 Larkin. You know, this is a typical apartment interior for us. We focus a lot on durability, big open spaces and flexibility, so that tenants can, you know, really make something their own and make it their home, but still, you know, still keep our ability to maintain the units with ease. So that, yeah, that's very important that we can, you know, maintain our units for the long haul. Our question I get asked a lot is, you know, your projects look great in year one, like how do they hold up in the long haul? What if, I used to get this question more, you know, what if the state of Illinois shuts down again? Are your developments going to be in trouble because you don't have the funds to, you know, mow the grass, pay the bills, things like that? And I think something that's really unique about the programs that we use to finance our developments is that we aren't reliant on a state appropriation year over year. We're using capital sources to build these developments, and that kind of, you know, ability to cover our capital expenses up front, or most of them, means that we can both keep rent affordable for our tenants, But also it means that we don't have a big debt service payment on our buildings. So we're able to cover our operating expenses, and actually must demonstrate that we can from the onset. So we do lots of sustainability and durability work in our buildings, knowing that we're on the hook for those bills for the long haul. So we put a lot of care, attention, and thought into what we're doing from the start, because like I said, Full Circle is the long-term owner and the property manager for most of our developments. So we aren't, a turnkey developer that's going to sell and have someone else operating the properties that we build. We're kind of a integrated organization that's really taking lessons that we learn and implementing improvements as we go. So I will pause there because I would love to leave enough time for questions.
So we don't have a lot of questions in the chat, but if people want to unmute themselves or start their videos and ask questions, I think our panelists would be happy to answer any questions you might have. You can either raise your hand or just speak up.
Hi, this is Tom Craighead. And just thinking about sometimes the population that we hear about are youth that are really just kind of aging out of some of the programs that they've been in, whether they're autistic or have other developmental things. Is that a population that you help with?
Yeah, we certainly, a portion of our tenants are adults with developmental disabilities that are looking to live independently and need affordability in order to do that. I will say that our developments and most of the financing sources that we use, really the best fit is someone that can live independently and does not have a need for 24-hour, like around-the-clock medical care. That's not something that our developments provide. But we have been able, for some folks, this has been the right housing option. So I think it all comes back to making sure that communities have a range of options because, not every development is going to have those sorts of features for folks that really need, medical care or 24-hour support.
Tina, did you have a question?
Actually, no, I was just going to more compliment, actually, because I got to go to the Elgin opening, and I thought that was the first time seeing all that, and I thought it was awesome. And I've kind of talked to Lindsey a little bit.
Yeah, I was going to say, hi, Tina, nice to see you again.
I'm back. Wait, that could sound bad. But anyways, like the scary movie. But anyways, I just wanted to say I really like, first, it sounded like you were talking about helping people to stay there as they need more help. And I really like that. And I caught on the homeless place was at Pearl Street. It sounded like mostly formerly homeless.
Yeah, we have several tenants there that we're exiting homelessness and found an affordable apartment there.
And I like it because it sounded like it was a supportive place for everyone to learn how to reintegrate into society and all that. And I like how you're talking about having support for vets. And, I really liked everything I'm hearing, and it makes me excited again because I've been gone for a while. So it's excited to hear all this. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Marcia, did you have a question?
Yeah, this is for Lindsey. Do communities approach you to come into their community and build something? And if so, what requirements do you have for them to accept them and help work with them?
Yeah, we have been approached by communities before, and I love that. It certainly this work is difficult no matter what, but when you have municipal support from the onset, and you are not kind of working against or having to do, you know, as heavy of a convincing lift, helps you, you know, focus your time on some other things that are a little more fun. So the way that we approach site selection, whether a municipality organization is coming to us or if we're kind of out looking, is, you know, we're looking for kind of the same common sense things that anybody looks for when they're looking for housing, right? We're looking at proximity to amenities, especially public transportation, fresh, healthy food, medical services, a pharmacy. If we're focused on serving families, we're looking at where's the closest elementary school and other supports for families. We're, you know, then past that, sort of thinking about, you know, is this site a good fit for, you know, the type of housing we normally do? So are apartments going to be contextual here? Or are we really going to be like, you know, on an uphill battle because we're surrounded by, you know, a lot of single family homes, or like just a different sort of land use that, you know, affordable housing and apartments wouldn't necessarily mesh with. So we're looking at that. We're also looking at the sort of zoning restrictions and precedent in a community. So, you know, I know a piece of land in the city of Chicago is going to accommodate, you know, a 7-story building there is maybe contextual and fit in just fine. That same piece of land in Naperville is, you know, we're not gonna be able to build something as dense. So we need to, you know, be mindful of that, be mindful of zoning and context. And then we are also looking to see if, you know, beyond just the initial support, if a municipality has any affordable housing resources that they're willing to bring to the table. We're working in Arlington Heights right now, and they've recently established an affordable housing trust fund that we're applying for as a funding source in our development. It would just be a small piece, but you know, would be really awesome to have. So we, you know, we've had some municipalities that have been able to come to the table and support a project financially, not just politically, which has been great.
So how do you compete against the McMansion developers getting access to the land, for example? This is a question from John.
Yeah, good question. So we're usually looking for that kind of sweet spot between, especially when we're working in the suburbs, what is walkable to amenities or very close by, but not so commercial that we would be the only residential use and folks wouldn't really feel like well integrated into the community. So I wouldn't say it's like the McMansions we're competing against. Sometimes it's other commercial development, or it's, you know, luxury, because, you know, affordable housing and luxury rental housing, you know, people kind of want the same thing, right? Access to transit, a grocery store, you know, nice walkable amenities, despite the income level of the person renting the unit. Those are just kind of givens, right? So, you know, it's probably more that other multifamily developer that we're competing against at times. And sometimes we just can't compete and we have to go find another site. Other times we do have a helpful municipality at the table that is prioritizing affordable housing and is saying, no, this is what we want to see here. So they're helping us, you know, either secure land or are, you know, helping to connect us with the right resources, or they have a piece of land in mind already. So yeah, so that's kind of how that's worked.
So Bill wanted to know, what are the things you need from local units of government? You were talking about working with government, cities, whatever, municipalities. What are the things you need from the local units of government to do more of your work?
I'll start this, but then I'm curious, Clara and Roger, for you to kind of chime in based on the work we've been doing in Glen Ellen. I think sort of willingness to take a little bit of a risk sometimes, to feel like there is, you know, especially if a coalition of organizations is coming to the table that says they have your back, being willing to go out on a limb a little bit and kind of stick up for the people in your community that might, you know, that need this housing, because they're often, you know, those aren't the folks that can show up to the 7 p.m. city council meeting for 3 months in a row. Those aren't the folks that like feel comfortable advocating for themselves, nor should they have to all the time. So I think having elected officials that understand the importance of affordable housing and are willing to say it publicly and not just kind of like quietly to you is incredibly important. And if we're already past that, then like I said, municipalities that have recognized that they can financially participate in a project, whether it's selling you know, city-owned land at a discount, waiving an impact fee, even down to just like making the process really clear and being like a really good, fast, collaborative partner. You know, even the low-hanging fruit always helps. But Clara and Roger want to hear what you guys think too.
Yeah, I think one thing that's really important is, in a sense, changing it's a question of values, I think. And I think if we can get away from the profit value and the money value, and the only thing that has value is what puts the most amount of money in our budget. If we can get away from that and get into more of what's the right thing to do? How are we going to help people? How are we going to provide these opportunities for people to develop their full potential? If we can get away from, as Lindsey was saying, you know, the kind of the high-end apartment developments that might generate more tax revenue, but it doesn't meet this great need that we saw earlier in the presentation. So I think there's an orientation that needs to shift. And one of the ways that DuPage United has worked to do that is to meet with each of our trustees in Glen Ellyn individually. We've met in groups, but we've also met them individually, and developed a relationship with them so that it's not just strangers asking for a favor. We know these folks. And so that's been really helpful for us. It's still a long haul, but it's been really helpful.
Yeah, that what Roger said is so important in terms of the value shift, because when you're leading a community, there's more than just the narrow financial economic model. There's a broader economic model. And a friend of mine from Habitat for Humanity said, if you're afraid of having something in your backyard, watch out, because you may end up with it in your front yard. And she said it much more eloquently than that, but the long-term gain in integrating to having your homes, your community homes, integrate to a broad group of incomes is so important. And I do think Lindsey hit it right on the head when she was talking about leaders that are willing to take a risk. And as Roger mentioned at DuPage United, we try to help them take that risk to say, there's a large group, there's a large community here behind you. Look at all these voters and these citizens that want you to do this, because we are advocating for those who don't have a voice and are uncomfortable with self-advocacy. So I think all of those points are well taken. Thanks.
Lindsey, I think this question is probably for you. From Jerry, how do you convey the difference between your services and other property management services? You seem to be so unique. How many other N4Ps are there in this market? It is growing, not-for-profits, I guess.
Yeah, thanks for the question. So, you know, of course, I think Full Circle is one of the best at what we do, but I'll say I'm biased. There are, you know, a lot of respected peer organizations that are doing similar work. There are other organizations that do supportive services in-house, so a little different model than what we do, where we have a partnership model, or other organizations that are focused on serving a more narrow population. So we're unique, I think, in our flexibility and ability to serve lots of different groups pretty well. But it's because we're able to kind of focus on the community building and real estate and property management piece, and are plugging in the correct team of supportive service folks that can really, already have the on the ground experience because they're from the community that we're working in. So in that regard, we are quite unique. But, I think the quality that we build, the types of units, there are other developers using these exact same programs. And a lot of what we do is, the fact that all of our developments are LEED certified or similar. That's not coming, although I appreciate that part of our work, that's not an organizational requirement. That's coming from our, funding partners at the Illinois Housing Development Authority. They're setting pretty clear criteria of how they expect, the quality and sustainability of these developments. And, they're mandating the amount of accessible units. As an organization, we often exceed that requirement. But I think there's a lot to say for the job that the Illinois Housing Development Authority does administering their financing programs, where most, you can kind of be rest assured that if someone is proposing a project like this in a community, it's going to be pretty high quality and it's going to be monitored. There's a use agreement that runs with the land on each of these projects. So it's not like, if an organization sells their property or they make all these promises in year one, there are legal documents that run with the land that are, requiring the operator of, each one of these developments to, adhere to what they promised at the beginning. So, that's something that I think gives communities a lot of assurance that it's not, just like I heard this nice presentation from this nice person one time. These things are codified and are part of a bigger program. So, I'm proud of Full Circle and think we're some of the best at what we do, but our peer development organizations do a great job too.
Stephen wonders if you could talk about the funding and how this impacts developments. You've touched on that a little bit.
Yeah, so we rely a lot on what are called low-income housing tax credits. That provides about 70% of the financing for each one of our developments. Those credits are competitively allocated by the Illinois Housing Development Authority, IDA. They use a competitive scoring process where they're, checking for experience. They have points for being near amenities and jobs and things like that. They're giving you points for achieving LEED certification, adding extra layers of affordability in your project, things like that. So that makes up a lot of our financing, but the other 30% is also hard to find. So we're, piecing it together all the time. We call it the lasagna approach. So we're often seeking, funding that a county may have through their community development funding. We have worked with TIF before if a municipality, has that kind of on the table to support infrastructure work, things like that. I mentioned, any special little pot of money for affordable housing a municipality may have. And then we're always taking on a little bit of private debt in each one of these projects too. So it's, and putting in some of our own money. So it's quite a combination. And the, as construction costs and interest rates have gone up lately, the lasagna is getting thicker. I'd say we've been adding more layers lately. So, yeah.
Barbara wondered, how do you determine the rent you charge per unit? Is the rent the same for all the apartments in the same building, or does the rent vary? Is it based on the ability to pay or on a fixed price?
Yeah, so kind of a combination. The way the tax credit program works, it's mirroring exactly what Clara brought up about the kind of grounding rule that affordability means paying 30 or about 30% of your income towards your rent. So we have units that are affordable at different income bands. So we'll have units that are affordable to folks earning 30% of area median income, 60% of area median income. You know, sometimes if we get access to like a special program, we can get it as low as affordable to 15%. And then that rent's going to depend on the unit size. So a studio is going to be less expensive than a 2-bedroom unit. The income limit is going to be, you know, different for a family of 4 than it is for an individual. So that's how rents are being set. And then where we can, we're layering in rental assistance. So if we can work with a local housing authority or gain access to, you know, there's a couple of little programs out there that either support folks with disabilities or veterans, special little pots of rental assistance. And if we can layer in that rental assistance, that's when a unit kind of works on more of a sliding scale, where, you know, regardless of income, someone's paying 30% of their income towards rent. So we can get a lot of deep affordability, which is really great for serving folks that are on a fixed income or, you know, have a disability that really limits their ability to make, you know, to earn an income. Having that rental assistance is really important and key. But we're really always looking at a mix. So we're really mixing like 1212 Larkin. We have some units that are affordable at that 60% level. So that's like about $60,000 for a family of 4, all the way down to units with rental assistance where we have folks that, you know, are living with a disability and are really just living off of SSDI or whatever, you know, supports they can put together. So that would be really tough even for them to make an affordable rent work, even if, you know, it were as low as like $300 or $400. That's still going to be tough for somebody on a really low fixed income.
Jerry asks, how did Arlington Heights get their initiatives for funds started? What kind of resources?
You know, I don't know, but I could put anyone interested. We've been working with the North, it's called the North Suburban Task Force, and they've been, they're a community-driven group of folks, mostly family members of people with mental illness that have been advocating for more affordable and supportive housing. And I think that they were in Arlington Heights Faith in Action's the other group. They have been really involved in a lot of the organizing conversation up there. So the trust fund predates our work in Arlington Heights, but I could put you anyone interested in touch, some people.
So my understanding is that for 1212 Larkin, it had a historic preservation aspect to it. Do you have other projects where you've been able to work with historic buildings or have that component involved?
Yeah, we, so 1212 Larkin's my favorite of our history. It was just really cool to, you know, the property was just really neat. And we were able to preserve a lot of the really cool features in the building. We are working right now on a project in Chicago that it was already historic, like it's already historic and has been renovated into housing, but we're coming in and purchasing it and, you know, renovating it again. So that's kind of like a lighter rehab. We've also, this didn't have historic tax credits, but we did an adaptive reuse of a school in Dubuque, Iowa, which turned out really nice. We were able to keep a lot of the like really neat original features in the building. So it's always, you know, and sometimes in a community that can be an interesting approach to like take a building that's already there. Sometimes it helps cool the temperature a little bit when people, you know, it's something that the community cares about and wants to see repurposed. That can help. That can, you know, it can make development more difficult, but it can sometimes help that community conversation. if they're looking at affordable housing as like a preservation tool.
Shannon would like to know if you allow support animals or pets in your developments.
Yeah, you have to allow support animals, but we allow pets generally with a pet deposit.
Do we have any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question. Lindsey, have you talked to anyone in the city of Naperville about coming in to do affordable housing in Naperville? They are considering a program right now that would offer incentives and streamline the process, which I know were two things that you mentioned about being able to help you get into the community. Have you talked to anyone, and is that something that you think you would be interested in doing, full circle, that would be interested in doing?
Yeah, no, we have never pursued anything in Naperville before, but I'm always open to a conversation if there's a listening ear on the other side. Love an introduction.
Okay.
Any other questions? Any comments from Clara or Roger? Anything that you would like to cover or restate?
Well, one thing, and I think as far as DuPage United is concerned, we would be really excited to assist in any way we can to bring Naperville into the fold. And we do have some member institutions that are in Naperville. But yeah, in terms of getting Full Circle involved, you know, I think an introduction is a great idea. And what I mentioned earlier, we would encourage you, maybe the League of Women Voters, to start meeting with council members if you haven't already, and you know, find out what the support is, find out what the roadblocks might be. This is not an easy thing, and you know, sometimes the right thing to do costs money and takes effort, and I think affordable housing definitely is one of those things. But you know, again, in Glen Ellen, we've been fighting it and pushing, and we're very optimistic. But it takes a village to get this done.
Literally. Yeah, and the only thing I would like to add to that is the fact that as we are looking at these developments, once those developments get in place and the community can see how good they are for the community, it will be easier. So we would fully support Naperville. Our goal with DuPage United is to have one smallish development in each district. Then it's spread throughout the county. We know that there's county board support for this. We've talked to county board members. We're continuing our relationships, and really that's the big part of it, is finding those relationships, educating the leaders, and then staying with it and getting the community involved. We had a meeting, a June village council meeting. We had 75 people show up in blue t-shirts wearing, you know, I heart affordable housing buttons. And then we had 6 speakers, one from each church, or in faith institution, not just church, faith institution in Glen Ellen, talk about the importance of affordable, accessible, and supportive housing to their congregation and representing their congregations. That's a lot of people. And that is very important. So as we move forward, we always ask the question, what is so important to you that you are willing to take action on? And then let's get that work done.
Yep.
Because it takes a lot. It does take a whole village. It takes a whole county. It takes a whole state. It just keeps going. And we can do it. We've seen it happen. So thank you very much for this opportunity to share what we know and don't know. And if you have any questions, just let Susan know and she can get in touch with us.
And I will ask you one more thing. Although I gave a brief introduction of DuPage United, perhaps you would like to talk a little bit more about DuPage United as an organization. I imagine, although you may have some fans here, I think a lot of people don't really know who you are.
Yeah, I can do that. DuPage United started in 2003, and we've had some successes, some big successes. We were able to reinstate English as a second language at College of DuPage when that course was going to be dropped. And that was a multi-year campaign. We're really in it for the long haul. Good things don't happen overnight, unfortunately. Another one at the countywide level is that we discovered some real misuse of what was going on at the Water Commission with respect to taxing bodies for water. The commission was to tax unincorporated bodies, but we learned through different audits that they were also taxing villages. And so that whole commission was disassembled and reassembled with new regulations and rules and oversight and that kind of thing. But that really took a while because we were talking to the county about one of their own commissions. And so we were successful there. We are also trained. I've attended a 2-day leadership, a 3-day leadership training a few years ago. And then every quarter there's new training available, all via Zoom now, which is so nice. So that we keep our skills up and that things become comfortable for us. You're not working out of your comfort zone because you've grown that. So those are some of the ways that we have built our organizing skills, because that's really what we are, is a group of organized citizens working to create change. Roger, would you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, just in addition to affordable, accessible, and supportive housing, the initiative that we had trying to get one development in each of the 6 districts, DuPage United is also heavily involved in decriminalizing mental illness. And in that initiative, we've been successful in promoting crisis intervention training for police officers. And now we're working hard to get crisis stabilization units in DuPage County and statewide. I mean, we all need it. Every county needs a place other than the jail and other than the emergency room if an officer needs to bring someone who's in a crisis. So we've been working at a state and local level on that. And we're also, one of our other initiatives is to support smart gun technology through our law enforcement, and that will then trickle down to the general population, so that we use the same technology that we use for our phones, so that only the owner of the gun can shoot the gun. So those are some of the big initiatives that we're involved in. And if anyone would like to join us and help, we are always looking for more leaders to help us.
So perhaps after this, we can organize an email. I think there are a number of people who are interested in both DuPage United and learning more about Full Circle. And Roger, you mentioned some references. I think people would be interested.
I have a whole list of references. Yeah. And so Tom actually brought up a good point that DuPage United is part of a larger organization, Metro IAF, which includes the wonderful work that the Fox River Valley Initiative has done, Lake County and Cook County. And we bond together to get things done on a regional level.
a great example of how alliances can get things done.
Yeah.
So if we don't have any other questions tonight, I would really like to thank Clara, Roger, and Lindsey for what has been a very educational program. I certainly have learned a lot, and I hope everyone else has as well. If you enjoyed this event and appreciate the community and civic work of the League of Women Voters of Naperville, I hope you will also consider joining us. You can go to the join page of our website, lwvnaperville.org. At the website, you can also find more information about upcoming events and what we do. I also hope you'll consider joining us next month, Wednesday, December 14th, when this Ideas Forum will bring to a discussion of with Naperville Police Chief Jason Aries, who will join us to discuss the Safety Act, the criminal justice bill, 1 year later. There'll be information about that on our Facebook page and on our website shortly. Thank you very much to our presenters and for everyone joining us tonight. Have a great evening.
Thank you.